Rajasthan, known as the land of the kings, is India's largest state. It became independent in 1947, and today, its 68 million inhabitants continue to live in accordance to its traditions. The sumptuous palaces filled with splendor and outdated charm and colorful art continue to attract ever more visitors to what has become the country's second most popular touristic destination. Located in northeast India, Rajasthan has always been a special territory. It is the cradle of the Rajputs, these warriors organized in clans, whose bravery and sense of honor were always synonymous with the worst imaginable headaches for the successive occupants. Following India's independence, contrary to other states of the new federation, numerous maharajahs retain their titles and possessions. While tourists are drawn to luxury and folklore, the majority of the population lives on very little income. On the road from Delhi is Amur, the gate to Rajasthan. Built in 1592, the fortress long remained the most visible part of Jaipur, the state capital. The building resembles a palace more than it does a garrison, with its yellow and pink sandstone walls decorated with white marble. The Maharaja's quarters are arranged around this inner courtyard. The Jai Mandir, or Victory Hall, is remarkably decorated with mirror-encrusted marquetry and surrounded by low reliefs made of sculpted marble. The back sections are now occupied by monkeys. The city has considerably expanded over the last few years and is now an economic metropolis with more than 3 million people. One of the most privileged modes of transportation is the auto rickshaw, a motorized three-wheeled cabin used to carry people as well as merchandise. The renovation of the Hawa Mahal is a testament to the recent attention paid by the authorities to the architectural heritage of the city. Several palaces should be so lucky and barely remain standing. Built in 1799, this architectural fantasy is pierced with a myriad of windows with delicate open-work design that allowed the women of the harem to watch the passers-by and the processions without being seen. From the palace, one can spot the observatory named the Jantar Mantar, built by Jai Singh in 1728. As an astronomy enthusiast, he created a rather futuristic site, as evidenced by its lines which house the succession of measuring instruments and sundials of various sizes. From the early morning hours on, the flower market impresses by its size and activity. It features mostly Indian carnations and roses that are used to make necklaces and to decorate the many temples. It is a wholesale market. The flowers come from the local fields. Once the price has been negotiated, they are swiftly wrapped and carried away by small peddlers that will later assemble them into necklaces or gift arrangements. The discussions between the traders take place around a traditional tobacco pipe. Near the market and in the vicinity of the temples, the making of the necklaces is already well underway. They get sold in bulk for just a few rupees. On the other side of the street, directly on the sidewalk, is the milk market. Farmers come to offer their daily production to resellers, who often load it up onto their bicycles. The city's most important building is still the City Palace, or Palace of the Maharaja. It features several imposing doors made of marble. This one is probably the most remarkable. The outer wall was erected by Jai Singh, but the palace was extended and modified through the centuries. Two silver 5-foot vases sit imposingly in the private hearing room, where the Maharajas would consult with their ministers. The Pritam Niwas Shok, the interior courtyard at the bottom of the royal family's private palace, comprises 4 finely decorated gates that represent the seasons. The gate of the dancing peacocks exemplifies autumn. Jaipur is the capital of fine jewelry. Tiny marvels are made from scrap silver. This metalsmith spends several hours hammering in order to produce these fine silver leaves to be used as pastry decorations or offerings to the temples. The Gem Palace is the jeweler of choice of the princes and maharajas. Rajasthan does not feature a great variety of precious stones, but some of the world's finest are imported and made into exceptional pieces of jewelry. While the cutting tools have become more modern, the local know-how has adapted and requires even more minutiae and precision. The craftsmen are able to drill through minuscule stones in order to make pearls. The men of this workshop benefit from dozens of years of experience, each with a specific specialization. They've created their own version of the welding torch, fed by the craftsman's mouth blowing various quantities of air into a small metal pipe, depending on the needs of the particular gold soldering.
उसने तो नहीं लिया ना, हम नेगटिया का बात कर रहे हैं।
इसमें नहीं देता, अपनी चीजों में नहीं देता।
Siddharth Kasliwal is the head of this family business established in 1852. He shows us several rare pieces, exceptional not just because of their size, but also because of the creations they inspired.
This is that gold filigree work, gold lace work that is put on the top, and this is what you'll see at the end. And then the inside, so you know what I mean, it will all be cut out, and then it would become like a, we call it a jali bracelet, which is like a screen work. A lot of people thought that this kind of craftsmanship has been lost in the pages of history and nobody can do it. As you can see, there are 927 pieces of rubies put together. Even on a close inspection, it looks like enamel. But these are all rubies with tiny emeralds here and diamonds with this symmetry. So this is what used to excite the Maharaja. Work in this is, it's an alloy of gold and silver, and this is the jewelry that was made during the Indo-Russian time, like in the Imperial Russian era. As you can see, the jali work that's done through. So you know, this is something which is very, very hard to do it, because one first has to make the base and then chisel out the gold by hand. And then these diamonds are set.
On a different note, the turban is part of traditional wear in Rajasthan. While in the past people used to wrap the 10 yards of fabric around their heads, today's turbans are sold ready for wearing. Each color has its coding. Red is for the maharajahs' servants, orange for policemen or the military, and white is for the villagers. The vegetable market is a particularly lively place in the morning. Wholesalers supply countless retailers across the city who then engage into a race against time to sell these vegetables before the heat rises. Once again, it is women who carry the heaviest loads on their heads. The weighing scale indicates 73 pounds or 33 kilos. Fabric block printing remains in practice. The concept is to print a motif on a piece of fabric using a stamp before reproducing the same design over and over based on the chosen number of colors.
This
is two, and we'll show you two more.
इसलिए तो सीख रहा हूँ हाँ
The experts look for precise execution, but also for a slight wavering in the designs that is specific to these types of prints. Remote from the city murmur, certain families of noble descent from the last century haven't yet completely assimilated the change in era. However, they had to transform their palaces into guest houses or hotels to pay for maintenance costs. Certain mansions, such as the Samode Palace, have managed to reconcile the hosting of a public of connoisseurs with the preservation of the cultural heritage. The Rajasthan Polo Club may seem out of fashion, yet it remains a hotspot for this spectacular sport that's highly popular in Rajasthan. It is late March and the season is coming to an end. An amateur match is scheduled today, as the professional league is already on hiatus. The objective is to score a goal by striking the ball with a long-handled mallet. Most high-level riders usually own 5 horses that are specifically trained to quickly react to changes of direction. Slips or even injuries are quite common. One of the country's most popular Hindu celebrations is Holi, the festival of colours, which marks the arrival of spring and celebrates fertility. Holi is dedicated to Krishna, the central divinity in Hinduism. On the eve of Holi, the early festivities begin with concerts and dances. Here, in Jaipur, traditional Rajput costumes and dances are prominent features. The representation of the peacock is also specific to Rajasthan, where it lives in the wild as a sacred animal. As we leave Jaipur and head west, Pushkar is a region famous for its rose fields. The flowers are usually picked at dawn, for they tend to protect themselves from the heat by closing up. This is where the roses at Jaipur's flower market come from. Pushkar is mostly known as a place of pilgrimage to access the temple devoted to the god Brahma before bathing in the sacred waters of the lake. It takes the pilgrims 52 ghats to get to it. A ghat is a Sanskrit term that refers to the steps that lead to the lake or river. As we head towards the elevated temple, the number of pilgrims increases. Merchants call out to the tourists to offer flower ornaments or to keep an eye on their shoes, as all visitors have to be barefoot to visit the temple. Located near the western extremity of Rajasthan, Udaipur, now the region's second largest city, stretches between several lakes. Lake Pishola is the most famous, and it notably features the lake palace across from the huge city palace. The lake palace has become one of the symbols of the city. It was once the summer residence of the Maharana Jagat Singh, which he had erected in 1746. Today, it is a luxury hotel that has acquired legendary status in Asia. The floors were originally encrusted with black and white marble, and the walls ornamented with niches and arabesques featuring various colorful stones, reminiscent of the style of the Taj Mahal in Agra. The imposing facade of the city palace is a testament to the successive modifications brought over the years by the maharajahs that are called maharanas in this region. Nowadays, only the most modern wing is still inhabited by the ruling family. The city palace was built by Uday Singh in 1559, and its construction went on for 300 years. It is regarded as Rajasthan's greatest royal palace. Following India's independence in 1947, the Kingdom of Mewar merged with the Dominion of India in 1949, at the same time as Rajasthan's other princely states. The Maharanas then lost their privileges and titles. However, they retained proprietorship of the palaces in Udaipur. Some were transformed into luxury hotels, and the city palace has now become a highly profitable business that includes a museum, along with several hotels and restaurants. The family of Maharana Arvind Singh Mewar still lives behind these gates. The term Maharana also refers to the king and is just another variant of Maharaja. Udaipur is considered as one of India's most romantic cities, thanks to the presence of numerous palaces along the lake. Dedicated to Vishnu, the magnificently sculpted Jagdish temple overlooks the Badai Pol neighborhood. This location is home to several artists, such as Rakesh Manaria and his workshop. Udaipur is famous for these miniatures that are painted with natural pigments and require great precision in their execution.
We use like a same technique the olden time artists using in palace and museum. So we keep everything. I learned from my father learned from his father. So in general, my son also, he's also artist, my daughter also artist. All artistic. This is very old art school in the old city. This is old city calling inside so this is oldest art school. This painting I made 5 years ago. Now I am not work anymore because my eyesight is not very good enough to make that miniatures.
We're back at the city palace on the eve of the Holi festival, where preparations are underway to celebrate Holika Dahan. Prior to India's independence in 1947, some 600 kingdoms were directly ruled by princes or kings, aside from British authority. Even though they lost all political power and a majority of their riches, the most important of them were able to keep their palaces and to diversify their assets. Such is the case of Maharana Arvind Singh Mewar, whose family reigned over the mighty kingdom of Mewar. In colourful pageantry, he and his family are headed to the central courtyard of the palace on the occasion of Holika Dahan. In Udaipur, he is still highly regarded by the population. The Maharana is joined by his wife and the crown prince for the pyre ceremony. All of the city's aristocrats are in attendance. A fire is lit to evoke the cremation of Holika as a way to symbolically burn the demons and represent the victory of good over evil. The Maharana then greets the sadhus, or renouncers, who have chosen a life apart from society to focus on spiritual practice. We now head back north to Jodhpur, another legendary city in Rajasthan, in order to experience the Holi festival. In the city centre, the pigment dealers are found under the clock tower. Those were originally natural pigments, but many have been replaced by low-quality chemicals, which are much cheaper, albeit a lot more difficult to wash. All the colours have a specific meaning. Green represents harmony, orange is optimism, blue means vitality, and red is for joy and love. In the past, the main purpose was to celebrate fertile land and wish for ample crops. Nowadays, the festivities are a way to say goodbye to winter, to celebrate the natural colour explosion, and to have a good time. The women participate in more subdued fashion in the small streets in front of their homes. All the relatives then gather around a copious meal. The trickiest part will be to get rid of the paint stains, especially if they're synthetic. The imposing citadel of Mehrangarh majestically towers the Blue City. The fort, which was directly cut into the stone and which features ramparts ranging from 20 to 120 feet, belongs to the descendants of the Maharaja of Jodhpur. It houses several palaces: the Flower Palace, the Mirror Palace, and the Pearl Palace, which is the oldest and was built in 1590. Certain royal chambers are filled with gold and silver ornamentations. Here, Nawab perpetuates the tradition of palace music with his traditional instrument called a santoor. In this room, the glass balls on the ceiling highlight the more recent influence of the British Empire. The blue color used to indicate that these houses belonged to members of the Brahmin caste. This color also happens to protect from heat and to repel mosquitoes. Recent constructions have increasingly superseded the ancient ones, and in certain neighborhoods, only a few blue spots remain. At the bottom of the fort, the Jaswant Thada is both a peaceful and singular landmark. Dedicated to Maharaja Jaswant Singh II, this white marble memorial was built in 1899. It is bedecked by a succession of domes. Inside, splendid filigree marble parting walls add to the astonishing nature of the monument. On the occasion of Holi, the funfair is in full effect. All the rides are man-powered. The most popular man here is the one who knows how to make the local snow cones, consisting of crushed ice topped with sweet-flavored syrup. On the other side of the city, Umaid Bhawan Palace is entirely made of Chittar sandstone. Erected in 1929, it comprises 365 rooms and took 15 years to be completed. Today, most of the palace is used as a luxury hotel. Jodhpur is also a city for antique dealers. Certain shops are the size of warehouses. They often supply European merchants who take advantage of the fact that these types of artifacts are currently trendy. In numerous villages, when people build a new house, they get rid of their old items, not realizing they could be of value. Many antiques have left India, plundered by unscrupulous traders. Nowadays, the authorities are a lot stricter. Prakash Singhal, the owner of this warehouse, also had the idea to set up reproduction workshops on the upper floors. The artifacts are sold on the internet and shipped bearing the company's wax seal.
And they provide this stamp to us.
Downtown, the cows don't always enjoy easy living, yet their status as sacred animals allow them to nap wherever they want. The women wear beautiful, bright-colored outfits and also numerous pieces of jewelry, which is quite auspicious for the peddlers. They come all the way from the neighboring villages to purchase from the wholesalers these bracelets worn in pairs. After Holi, the clock district is back to its bustling activity. Men get haircuts in the streets. Sugarcane juice is a sought-after drink as soon as the temperature rises. It is best drunk filtered and over ice. The Palace of Balsamond is one of the locations known only to the insiders. At the edge of the city, Lake Balsamond was created in 1159, and the Summer Palace was built shortly after. It serves as a water reservoir for the city. Now partially transformed into a hotel, it is a place of refuge for monkeys and peacocks. The peacock was recognized by Krishna as a symbol of immortality. It is one of India's national symbols. When night falls at the bottom of the fort, a group of manwa musicians sing traditional Chandriya songs that only get performed at big weddings these days. As we continue our journey to the north, the impressive reservoir of Gadi Sagar indicates that we are nearing Jaisalmer, the last city before the desert. Jaisalmer was a stop on the great trade routes that connected China to Europe. It was a crossroads of sorts, where camel caravans would stock up before crossing part of the Thar desert. Numerous merchants thus became wealthy and built sumptuous mansions called Haveli. Among them, the Patwa Gudman is the best preserved. Each mansion featured its own temple. The interior decoration was particularly encumbered, so as to impress the visitors or clients. This Haveli was built by a rich banker and required 60 years to reach completion. Contrary to Jodhpur, the citadel of Jaisalmer is still inhabited by several families, among the many Jain temples. Jainism is based on non-violence, a drastic respect of the environment, belief in reincarnation, and for some, extreme asceticism. The omnipresent desert can be felt as far as the city, when tremendous sandstorms sweep across the Oka town. At nightfall, Mandir Palace, the former resident of Jaisalmer's rulers for 2 centuries, is emphasized by the evening light. A few miles away towards the desert is Pabu's village. The local social life is still governed by the caste system. As a Bhil, Pabu is at the bottom of the social ladder. But along with his wife Capucine, he's created guest rooms as a way for visitors to experience the region in a different way. The main concern here is water. In the summer, the temperature can easily reach over 120 degrees. Most of the villages were established near water sources, and the young girls of the households are tasked with collecting it. At the potter's house in the village of Hada, The 4 wood figurines above the doorway indicate that the 4 boys of the family are already married and no longer live there. Through his organization called Malanbai, Pabu encourages his neighbors to be self-reliant by capitalizing on their handicraft, which is also a dying art. Here, the dishes are washed with sand instead of water. Pabu encourages this family to complement their production of kitchen dishes with more decorative artifacts aimed at the transiting tourists. It isn't much, but these few hundred rupees are welcome by these families with no subsidies and very little resources. There are thousands of gods in India. Pabu travels to a temple that's reserved for low-caste people, where he worships the god of the 7 sisters and 1 brother, that's specific to this part of the desert. This colourful paste will show that he was at the temple. The most important building is reserved for those of the Brahmin and Rajput faith, while the little temple on the right is for musicians. Here, in the village of Sosia, Pabu has convinced this family to start making traditional rugs again. The black wool comes from sheep, the grey one from camels, and the few colourful touches are made of cotton. These rugs will also be sold through Pabu's Malanbai organization. These families are often self-sufficient and produce most of their own food. Pabu is now at one of the many wells that have been in existence for hundreds of years, as the only guarantors of survival in such a hot environment. The notches in the stone made by the ropes are a testament to the relentless activity of the well. The dromedaries are also precious allies in this mineral world, as they are capable to travel long distances over scorching rocks. Equipped with leather flasks, they represent a perfectly reliable way to transport water. At the village of Asta, Pabu takes us to a Bohemian camp. These people are gypsies. They have no resources. They've been exploited for the last 2 centuries and are forced to beg other villagers for food.
They was doing only for themselves, to use for their own decoration. Yeah. And then we come here and start art craft more and more to help them to sell with a fair price, and they can find their dignity back to, because it is a very, very, very hard life, and the government here never help you, not at all.
After reaching the western end of Rajasthan, we head back east towards Delhi. A curious stage attracts the visitors a few hours away from Jaisalmer. The temple of Kani Mata in Deshnuk is dedicated to Kani, the incarnation of the goddess Durga, who convinced the god of death to resuscitate the son of one of her storytellers. He accepted, but reincarnated him as a rat, along with Kani's male children. These animals are therefore respected and fed within the walls of the temple. Since then, it has become common belief that a rat touching a human's foot is a blessing. As we continue to go east, we come across Bikaner, another former important stop on the great caravan trails at the gates of the desert. Back in the days of the British Protectorate, it specialized in camel breeding. The fort, which dates back to 1589, is one of the rare ones in Rajasthan not to have been erected on a hill. It comprises several palaces, the decorations of which are currently undergoing renovation, even though their splendor is already quite visible. The Rajput style was often influenced by European artists. Further along the road towards the eastern border, we arrive in Shekhawati, a relatively unknown region today, but which was a crossroads for merchants on the caravan trail in the 14th century. Dundlod Fort dates back to 1750 and was built by Sadal Singh. Today, Mahendra Singh, better known as Bonnie, perpetuates the tradition of Mawari horse breeding, a rare endangered breed. There were only 500 left in 1995.
They are unique because you see they can turn them nearly 180 degrees. And also they can turn them one by one.
बंदा हुआ भी फिर भी लात मारता है बंदा हुआ भी लात मारता है दोबारा
These horses were bred in India for battle, for war. So they are very, very forward going, very strong for long distance. Then when in 1947 India finished with the maharajahs and the nobility, the horses went out. Again, because they were the only people who were keeping it. Then it went to the farmers. And the breeding was not good. So we got all the breeders who we knew, very few people, but we got them all together with Francesca's help and myself. We made the Indigenous Horse Society of India in 96. And thereafter we started telling people to breed horses better, make farms, give them more knowledge.
The lineage has now been preserved and Bonnie owns 14 stallions and 64 thoroughbreds. The main attractions for visitors in Shekhawati are these havalis, the former houses of rich merchants that have often been neglected. Some are pure gems with magnificent decorations. Unfortunately, not all families can afford to maintain them, nor can they all attract a sponsor. Early April marks the beginning of harvest before the heat takes over the region. Depending on the presence of water sources near the villages, the crops can be abundant and modify the landscape from hill to hill. We're now in Fatehpur, still in Shekhawati. This is what quasi-abandoned Havelis look like. This one was restored by a French artist named Nadine Leprince. The first courtyard was reserved for the men, along with the rooms on the second floor. The second courtyard was intended for the women and included shower rooms. Nadine Leprince was mindful to use the same type of pigment as in the original paint, while taking into account the difficulty of painting over stucco, a type of plaster. It took her 4 years to restore the bulk of the house, and her work isn't finished yet. On the ground level, the caravan travelers journeying from China to Persia could unload their goods and rest their camels. These days, Nadine Leprince is fighting to force the government to save the Havelis that are being looted by unscrupulous antique dealers. Thus ends our exploration of Rajasthan, a mythical land of maharajahs, palaces and small villages, seemingly unaffected by time.